A decade ago, Dongguan was infamous as China's sex capital and celebrated as the world's factory. Today, as factories fall silent and the streets grow deserted, the sex industry is roaring back to life, and this time, the Chinese government seems to be laying out the red carpet for it.
东莞即将全面放开夜生活经济，10年前的娱乐皇城要回来了吗？10年前那场轰轰烈
Dongguan is about to fully open up its nightlife economy. Is the entertainment capital from 10 years ago about to return? That sweeping anti-vice campaign a decade ago wiped out the city's nightlife economy overnight. Entertainment venues that once blazed with neon lights all shut their doors, and the city's economy collapsed along with them. Back then, Dongguan's nightlife was no joke. It was a real economic engine. But just recently, Dongguan's officials dropped a bombshell. They're fully opening up the nightlife economy. What does this move mean? Doesn't it feel a bit like opening the floodgates and letting the waters rush in? Hold on, don't jump to conclusions just yet. This time is different from 10 years ago. Dongguan now says it wants to develop the nightlife economy on the premise of standardization and legalization, aiming to build a brand new, healthy nightlife model. Think about it. In the decade since the crackdown, Dongguan's GDP growth slid from double digits down to single digits. Manufacturing kept up appearances, but industries that relied on nightlife, dining, lodging, transportation, and other supporting sectors had long been struggling. Data shows that a healthy, well-developed nighttime economy can boost a city's GDP growth by 2-3 percentage points. What's more, the main consumers of the nightlife economy are young people, exactly the group whose confidence in spending most needs revival right now. In short, Dongguan's move is about searching for new growth engines. After all, every major city across the country is scrambling for talent, projects, and investment. If you don't take the initiative, others will already have carved up the cake. But let's be clear, the crackdown 10 years ago wasn't without reason. Back then, the nightlife economy really did contain many gray areas. The question now is whether Dongguan can find a path that both promotes economic growth and maintains social stability. Striking the right balance is crucial. Too strict and the nightlife economy won't truly take off. Too loose, and history might repeat itself. Dongguan must tread carefully on this tightrope, step by step. In 10 years, consumer tastes and expectations have changed too. Today's young people are more drawn to high-quality, diverse nightlife experiences, not just the old pleasures of lust and indulgence. This may well be the best opportunity for Dongguan to transform and upgrade its nightlife economy. So, what do you think? Can Dongguan succeed this time? This is China Social Trends. Before we dive into all of this, let us know in the comments where you're watching this video from. Connecting with viewers across the world is a huge source of inspiration for us. Inside China's sex capital, Kim 100 million workers, $7 billion empire. A decade ago, if you mentioned Dongguan to someone in China, the reaction was almost always the same: a smirk, a knowing look, and the whispered phrase, the sex capital of China. This wasn't an exaggeration. At its peak, Dongguan's underground sex industry was estimated to involve 300,000 to 500,000 people, from hostesses and service staff to those in related businesses. The annual economic impact was staggering, nearly 50 billion yuan, or about $7 billion US. Some reports suggested that 1 in 10 women working in the city was linked to the trade. The scale was so vast that in February 2014, Beijing launched a massive crackdown. Over 6,000 police officers stormed the city in one coordinated sweep. More than 2,000 entertainment venues, KTV lounges, massage parlors, hotels were raided or shut down in a matter of days. The move shocked the world. International media called it an unprecedented campaign and expressed astonishment at the sheer scale of Dongguan's sex industry. But ordinary Chinese were far less surprised. On Weibo, comments poured in mocking, "Why bother with hidden cameras? Everyone already knows what Dongguan Island." For years, the phrase Dongguan-style service had been an open secret, a euphemism everyone understood. The city's reputation as China's sex capital had long been part of its identity, both notorious and unforgettable. But there was another side to the city. By day, Dongguan wasn't just China's sex capital, it was the beating heart of the world's factory. a place where assembly lines never slept and where global brands built their fortunes on the backs of millions of migrant workers. The golden age of manufacturing. Located between Guangzhou and Shenzhen, just across from Hong Kong, Dongguan became a magnet for foreign investors after China's opening up reforms. Farmland was replaced with sprawling factories. Millions of migrants from poor provinces poured in, turning Dongguan into one of the fastest-growing cities in the Pearl River Delta. By the early 2000s, if you bought a pair of sneakers, a t-shirt, or a cheap toy stamped "Made in China," there was a good chance it came from Dongguan. By the 2010 seconds, the city had become the epicenter of the smartphone revolution. Apple, Samsung, Huawei, Oppo, Vivo all relied on Dongguan's vast supply chains. Foxconn, Luxshare, Flextronics, they all built massive operations there. At its peak, the city produced between 250 and 400 million smartphones every year. The golden years were dazzling. Between 2009 and 2019, Dongguan's GDP grew at an average of 8% annually, hitting 10.2% in 2009 alone. In 2021, the city passed the milestone of 1 trillion yuan in GDP, joining the club of China's richest cities. Its population surged past 10 million, more than 86% of them migrants. To the world, Dongguan was proof that China had risen. To Beijing, it was the perfect showroom of success, and to the workers, it was harsh but steady work. You worked overtime, sent money home, and dreamed of a better life. The first cracks. But beneath the neon glow and factory floor, cracks were forming. Global demand for smartphones began to plateau after 2016. Competition increased. Capital flowed to Southeast Asia and South Asia, where labor was cheaper and politics less fraught. Dongguan, over-dependent on a single industry, started to wobble. By 2022, the numbers were alarming. GDP growth was just 0.6%, essentially stagnation. Industrial output dropped nearly 6%. Electronics manufacturing shrank by 5%. Electrical machinery by more than 7%. Exports fell by over 11%. For a city where exports once made up more than 80% of the economy, this was a disaster. The trade war that crushed Dongguan. Then came the hammer blow, the U.S.-China trade war. When Washington and Beijing began slapping tariffs on each other in 2018, Dongguan became one of the hardest-hit cities in all of China. This was a place where the foreign trade dependence ratio once reached nearly 300%, meaning Dongguan's economy was not just export-driven, but export-obsessed. Tariffs on electronics, machinery, furniture, and textiles, the lifeblood of Dongguan, sent shockwaves through its factories. Buyers pulled orders. Contracts shifted to Vietnam, India, and Mexico. Foreign-invested companies, which had powered Dongguan's boom, quietly left. Taiwanese suppliers packed up. Hong Kong bosses pulled out. Western firms retreated. Between 2018 and 2023, local reports estimated that up to 4 million workers left Dongguan, either laid off or forced to return to their hometowns. The trade war exposed the fragility of the world's factory. For decades, officials celebrated growth numbers, but those numbers were built on a single pillar: foreign orders. When that pillar collapsed, Dongguan had no plan B. What followed was a slow-motion collapse, and by 2025 it was visible everywhere. Factories fall silent, 70–80% losing money. On September 5, 2025, a second-hand equipment dealer filmed inside a shuttered injection molding factory in Daling Township. The factory floor was worn smooth by decades of production, but the machines were silent. He spoke with despair. So many factories are closing. Since August, it just keeps getting worse. Machines are piling up in our warehouse. Nobody wants them. We're selling by the ton, as scrap metal. Even brand new CNC machines are sitting here unused. I have no confidence in September. His warehouse was overflowing, aisles crammed with idle equipment. Hundreds of machines, no buyers. Across the city, the story was the same. Warehouses stuffed with scrap, factories gone dark, investment interest evaporated. Local estimates now say 70–80% of factories in Dongguan and nearby Shenzhen are losing money. Breaking even is considered a victory. On June 25, 2025, Celestica Dongguan SSL, a Canadian electronics manufacturer that had operated for 21 years, closed its doors, another giant gone. Chang'an, once Dongguan's most prosperous town, known for BBK electronics and sky-high factory rents, is now a ghost. Streets that once bustled with shops and restaurants are lined with for lease signs. Even prime storefronts near the hospital stand empty. One resident, who had lived in Chang'an for 20 years, admitted, "Not even during the pandemic did I see anything like this. Shops, factories, streets, everything is dead." The human cost is staggering. Factory owners have fled, leaving workers unpaid. Protests erupt as migrants demand their wages. Others simply vanish into joblessness. In May 2024, a video went viral. Young workers sleeping inside abandoned concrete pipes on the city's edge. They became known as the rat people. By day, they scavenged bottles or begged for odd jobs. By night, they crawled into pipes to sleep. It was a scene straight from the Great Depression, but it was happening in modern China, in the heart of its industrial core. Beijing's night economy gamble. Faced with collapse, Dongguan's government tried something desperate. According to an Epoch Times article published on July 16, officials unveiled a plan to revive the night economy on July 14, 2025. Bars, karaoke clubs, and live performances would get fast-track approvals. The goal, they said, was to activate nighttime consumption power, but within 24 hours, the policy document disappeared, replaced with a 404 error. Why? Because the idea triggered outrage. Many suspected the city was hinting at reviving its old sex trade to prop up spending. Commentators blasted it as drinking poison to quench thirst. Even Hu Xijin, the former editor of the Global Times, stirred controversy when he wrote on Weibo that sexual depression is one reason for weak consumption and suggested society should not be overly harsh on what counts as erotic. The post went viral and was quickly deleted. Economists and commentators were scathing. Fan Jiazong, a professor of economics at National Taiwan University, explained that Dongguan is a window city. Its slump mirrors China's broader consumption crisis. What China faces, he argued, is a balance sheet recession. Households, businesses, and even local governments are buried in debt, all trying to pay it down. When everyone saves and no one spends, consumption collapses. Tang Jingyuan, a veteran commentator now based in the U.S., went further. He argued that Dongguan's collapse is not a natural disaster, but a man-made one, caused by the Chinese Communist Party itself. Xi Jinping's focus on political security over economic reform, his suppression of private enterprise, his hostility toward foreign investment, all have driven entrepreneurs away. Tang said, Dongguan's manufacturing decline is a man-made tragedy. By 2023, Dongguan's GDP growth was just 2.6%. In 2024, it ticked up to 4.6%, still below the national rate of 5%. The city that once grew at double digits now limps along. Estimates say as many as 4 million migrants have already left. The Pearl River Delta's proud industrial powerhouse has become a hollowed-out shell. If you're still watching, comment 1 so I know you're still with me. A window into China's future. So, what remains of Dongguan's image today? A decade ago, it shocked China with its sex industry. Today, it shocks again. Not with neon nights, but with silent factories and shuttered streets. The city is no longer the showroom of China's success, but the showroom of its decline. Once fueled by cheap exports, it has been crushed by global shifts. Once reliant on migrant labor, it now cannot provide jobs or dignity. Once held up as a symbol of prosperity, it now floats desperate ideas of reviving sex work just to spark spending. As Tang Jingyuan put it, there is no reasonable path forward. Dongguan's future is China's future, and both are running out of road. The story of Dongguan does not stop at the collapse of an industrial city. It reflects a deeper truth. When the world's factory lost its position, the Chinese government began searching for short-term escape routes by promoting the so-called nighttime economy. In recent years, dozens of cities from Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou to Shenzhen have rolled out plans to encourage nighttime services, touting them as the key to stimulating consumption. According to official data, the scale of China's nighttime economy is now estimated to exceed 30 trillion yuan annually, contributing around 60% of total urban household spending. But behind these seemingly bright numbers lies a much darker picture. In Guangzhou, local statistics show that nearly 40% of nighttime economy revenue comes from karaoke, bars, and disguised entertainment services. In Shanghai, more than 2,000 nightclubs were officially registered in 2023 alone, but many of them in reality operate as fronts for prostitution. In Shenzhen, police reported that in just the first quarter of 2024, they had shut down more than 500 venues tied to prostitution and gambling under the label of nighttime services. This is clear evidence that the dark side of this policy is spreading. At the same time, social diseases are worsening. According to China's CDC, in 2023, more than 13 million people living with HIV were officially reported, double the number from a decade earlier. The 2035 age group accounted for up to 60% of new cases. Other sexually transmitted diseases such as syphilis and gonorrhea have also surged among young people who frequent nighttime entertainment venues. And it doesn't stop at the sex trade. Drugs are also seeping into the nighttime economy. China's Ministry of Public Security reported that in 2022, authorities handled more than 160,000 cases related to synthetic drugs, most of them uncovered in bars and nightclubs operating all night. This has been the source of countless street crimes. In Guangdong Province, statistics show that in 2023 alone, there were more than 2,300 large-scale brawls directly linked to bars and nightclubs, many resulting in fatalities. On the level of social morality, internal surveys have also revealed alarming decline. A 2022 study by Renmin University found that more than 45% of urban youth surveyed admitted to regularly participating in nighttime entertainment involving sex or alcohol. Meanwhile, the prevalence of mental health disorders such as depression, anxiety, and substance addiction among those aged 18-35 has risen nearly 30% in just 5 years. Even from an economic perspective, the nighttime economy has not delivered sustainable recovery. Statistics show that in 2023, manufacturing revenues in Guangdong fell by 7%, while nighttime service revenues in Guangzhou and Shenzhen rose by only 2–3%, nowhere near enough to make up for the industrial losses. Replacing production with nighttime consumption is like trying to sustain an economy on alcohol, gambling, and sex, things that bleed society faster than they heal it. Meanwhile, warning signs are emerging across Chinese society. Suicide rates among young people are rising sharply. A 2023 report revealed that suicides among those aged 15–34 accounted for more than 35% of all suicides nationwide, much higher than a decade ago. Major psychiatric hospitals in Beijing and Shanghai have reported severe overcrowding. On social media, many mockingly remark, "Unemployed by day, selling your soul by night." Oh? From Dongguan, once considered the symbol of industry, to the nighttime economy model now being chased by many cities, it all reflects one truth. China no longer has a sustainable long-term development path. When manufacturing can no longer hold its ground, when exports are no longer the pillar, pushing citizens into the vortex of nighttime consumption is nothing more than a temporary fix, but one that may corrode social morality even faster than economic collapse itself. One of the biggest consequences of the policy promoting the nighttime economy is that it encourages a lifestyle of indulgence and recklessness among the youth. When major cities from Beijing to Guangzhou display the slogan, "The city that never sleeps," what they are really sending is an implicit message. Spending, pleasure, and living for personal gratification are more important than hard work and savings. This has a particularly strong impact on young people already struggling with economic hardship. For many young women, when office or factory jobs become unstable, when wages are barely enough to cover rent, they are forced to face a bitter choice. Either continue to live in poverty and hardship, or sell their youth and dignity by stepping into the nighttime industry. Not a few initially think they will only do it temporarily to make ends meet, but soon they are swept into the whirlpool of money, alcohol, gifts, and material temptation. Gradually, their youth and dignity become bargaining chips in cold and transactional exchanges. For young men, when society no longer openly condemns depravity, and when even state media portrays the nighttime economy as a driver of growth, it becomes easy for them to abandon traditional values of love, family, and responsibility. Instead of seeking a long-term relationship based on loyalty and commitment, many begin to see paying for affection for a night as something normal. This lifestyle gradually strips them of the ability to build real trust and connection, while eroding marriage, family, and the core values of society itself. When both men and women are drawn into this cycle of trading intimacy for money, trading money for fleeting pleasure, the result is not only personal decline but the moral decay of an entire generation. So what do you think? Is the return of China's nighttime economy and sex industry a sign of irreversible decline, or just a temporary strategy to patch up a collapsing economy? Will China's youth have the strength to resist temptation, or will they be swept into a spiral of indulgence and recklessness? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear perspectives from different angles. Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share so more people can see this. See you again in the next video.